When you first go to a college and you're looking at majors, you're thinking kind of broadly, like psychology, law, and when you think of film, you're thinking like, oh, I'm going to get to work with a camera, I'm going to get to do movies, and I'm going to get to learn how to make movies, and that's what I want to do, movies.
The department was conceived as a blend of critical analysis and intervention, including production.
A few years ago, like students who maybe dived in the major and they see the website where it says you're going to have experience and hands-on and digital film production and all of that. All it is media theory, so it's like a big giant lie on the website.
Part of what I end up doing is imagine you're doing this thing. Imagine you're going to be putting on a production, you're going to be filming something, but I don't get to actually do it.
I came here and I was expecting to get very hands-on stuff, and I had to, watch films and write papers on it.
I really do think it's necessary, but I feel like because, for whatever reason, it's deemed not necessary for my field.
You come to find out that the school is actually an analytical program. It's a theoretical program. It's one that teaches you how to analyze films and interpret them.
So would you be surprised if I told you that all the students I interviewed thought they would be taking production courses?
Yeah, then they didn't read the catalog. We wanted to make sure that we were not doing what UCLA and USC and NYU were doing. We didn't want to do a standard film studies or film and television production department. We wanted to do something that was more academically oriented, cultural studies oriented. And cultural studies is basically a way to approach, different types of, in our case, media, not only as a series of texts that you read, i.e. unpacking a film for meaning or, watching a television program and looking for symbolism or stuff like that. That's one part of it. But also the systems of distribution, the systems of production, and audiences as well. How do people actually watch? How do audience groups function? So looking at things like demographics, marketing, consumerism in general.
In addition, because there are 600 film schools in the United States, and there are lots, probably too many in Southern California, the idea of trying to do that was just absurd. It's completely unnecessary. There are probably a couple of hundred more in this country than are necessary, than are needed.
But again, our mission as a department is to offer an education that isn't about just making films. It's about understanding media as a cultural, social, and economic set of forces. Where have we even learned that,
I actually have a friend down in SDSU who right now is just passing me by in terms of film knowledge. He has so many different classes. He knows how to write scripts now. He knows how to shoot different angles. He knows how to shoot in black and white. He knows what a light meter is. I doubt half of the students in the MCS department even know what that is.
I think in terms of theory, we are absolutely at the top. I know people at UCLA, at Cal State Long Beach, at Chapman, and really in terms of looking at film critically, analyzing it, looking at technique, we are above and beyond. In terms of production, absolutely not. We really don't do anything comparable with production. And I think that's a big problem.
So like these people, they go all through 4 years with a major in media and cultural studies, and they don't have any type of knowledge, any type of experience to put on a resume or to help them with what they further want to do.
So for a student that graduates from MCS and wants to make a documentary, do you think they're well prepared without any kind of production knowledge?
Well, they will get production knowledge because we offer classes.
This documentary you're watching is for a new class within the MCS program with an emphasis on production. And this is what the school gave us to use for equipment. Nothing.
In terms of resources, I really feel it the most in MCS classes because we don't really have any.
Because there really aren't enough resources, there aren't enough cameras, there aren't enough computers.
In many of these areas, the technology is changing very, very rapidly. And we're at the point now where you can get not far off broadcast quality from cell phones. Many, many students have the technology already of their own.
The fact of the matter is that everybody has a camera on their cell phone, and so many people have small cameras like this.
Do you personally have a camcorder?
I don't. No.
Do you own like a camera or something that you could film like a movie in or a documentary in?
No.
You don't?
No, sadly no, I'm not very high tech. Yeah.
So, do you own like a camera or something you could use to film? You don't?
My phone isn't a smartphone either, so.
Okay.
That's sad.
Alright, so we're in a production class. We're supposed to make a documentary, but they didn't provide us with anything. So how do you think that you would feel about that?
I would be very upset. I'd be very upset because, I mean, you're in the class. I would assume they would provide you with the stuff to do the documentary, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would be upset.
Do you personally have a camera or like a handheld to shoot something?
I just have my handy-dandy phone here.
I would like to see the department have its own camera, even just one, and also potentially, if we can afford it, like tripods or tracking or any of the things that you need to be able to use if you're going to be working on a full production.
None of us are truly trained first and foremost as filmmakers.
But I do know that the hire of Root Park in the theater department was its first major kind of investment in providing that production component, and I think that they made it right on move by doing that. I think that, you know, through his production classes, he's providing a tremendous opportunity for students, and I also, to my understanding, know that you know, that was part of the departmental kind of decision-making process to go in that direction.
We also had a theatre department. We have a theatre department that was gearing up to do more and more dramatic production in front of and behind the camera, particularly film and television drama. And we had in creative writing a journalism minor that was interested in gearing up to do news and current affairs. So what would be the right area for us to focus on? It would be the things that aren't quite so related to either news and current affairs in the sense of journalism or dramatic film and television production in the sense of theatre. Obviously that meant things like electronic games and social movement activism, particularly probably through documentaries.
So do you feel like you're in the wrong major?
Not really, because actually though, you know what, maybe, because it seems like theater, they focus more on like production and film and like hands-on stuff that help me with what I want to do, you know, so.
They've decided to do that production route.
Okay, so if we wanted to do production, then how come the advisors don't push them over to this theater side more?
Because that's relatively new. Theater really just started doing that, to my knowledge, like a year and a half ago. And what we're trying to do in MCS and theater is get closer together so that we have more flow with students.
I'm not like in the theater like for acting or anything like that. I was more towards media, but I feel like theater has a lot more resources for the things that I want to do. I think a lot of media and cultural studies majors students go to certain theater classes because in media and cultural studies it's a boring media theory on something that we'll never talk about ever again in life. It has nothing to do with what we want to do. So yeah, theater, they have cameras, they have a lot of hands-on. Like for instance, in fall, I was wanting to take Park's Intro to Digital Film Production. And like in media and cultural studies, you don't have that. I think this is as close as it gets to that.
Well, I think that our department has exploded in terms of the MCS majors, and we have about 500 majors now, and I think that we really need more faculty lines, and the next faculty I would like to see hired would specialize in different kinds of media production. And I would love to see us hire someone who could teach students how to make documentary films. Personally, I've been working with students in making documentary films for the past few years, but we're very much doing it from you know, do-it-yourself kind of in a do-it-yourself modality. but I think that we've produced some very important and high quality work. And fortunately, we've benefited from some students who've had some film background experience. But if you're resourceful, I think that we can produce a lot of really important independent style media. And to me, that's what I'm interested in pursuing as a department. And I think that UC Riverside MCS could become nationally and internationally known for that aspect of our department.
Not to fault you guys, and I know you guys want more, but we are trying, but the fact of the matter is we're sort of in a hiring freeze in the UC system in general because of the budget crisis.
Right.
So if we could, we'd hire 5 people, and maybe some of them would be production, but probably not all 5, maybe 2, maybe 1, but we don't have any money to do that. It doesn't just magically change. So we've tried to adjust as much as we can by creating more production classes. But
the allocation of resources is not just based on the number of undergraduate majors you have, in order therefore to provide more funding for equipment or more funding for faculty. It is decided by the priorities that are set by the dean of the college and by the people who are in senior management of the university.
So is that it for production in MCS?
Well, actually, coming to this class and knowing that we're actually going to be hands-on with film and documentary film, it interested me because I don't have no experience in no type of film or any type of media field, and I feel like I only have a year left, so there's a problem there. So I talked to Professor Sheik, and she proposed that I write a petition. The petition is basically a fight for, well, it was at the beginning, a couple of weeks ago, we had a chance to get funding to have cameras for not only this class, which is our documentary film class, but other classes in the future, so that we no longer have to just watch it from a PowerPoint or on a movie or read it in an article. We could actually dive in and learn, because I think that's the real way to learn, in my opinion. That's how I learn, and I think that's how most people learn. I think it's ongoing, and that was kind of like a test drive. So I think, since I have one more year, we were just going to try to do it maybe again in fall, see how far it goes.
Would you be surprised if I told you that most of the MCS students want production as part of their curriculum?
No, I'm not surprised at all. It makes perfect sense to me, and I can see how they could see that translating most directly into job opportunities. So it makes perfect sense to me, and I would encourage students to get organized, to form an association, to figure out how to do a survey at the beginning of next year to be able to rationalize an articulation of student demands and desires and bring that to the faculty, and so that we can further solidify what kind of direction we may want to go toward in the future.
We're in a situation where nobody is qualified to be able to say what MCS students want, because we've grown so quickly. We now have close on 500 majors. A year ago, we had less than half that number. We haven't yet had a student body form. We haven't had elections where students identify whom they want to be their leaders and provide representative governance. We haven't done a training needs analysis of the interests that the students have in terms of how our curriculum might change.
If we can kind of unify, like some of the other departments on campus have, I think that in and of itself would be a huge difference.
We've just had a major external review of our department where a very distinguished external committee interviewed undergraduate students, interviewed staff, interviewed faculty, interviewed senior management of the university and the college, interviewed everybody you could imagine. When we get their report, we'll have a much better idea of what it is that we might be doing and the things we might need to change in our undergraduate curriculum. But I think in terms of working out where we should go next, we need undergraduate faculty governance that the students organize themselves to show what representative interests are. We need to undertake a specific analysis of where they want to go and where we want to go, and we need to find out what the responses are from the external review committee that just evaluated how we go about what we do. First of all, I think the most important one is the spread of literacy, because if you go back a couple of millennia, if you go back a millennium, if you go back a few hundred years, you find that whilst there were recorded methods for sharing information, be they pictures or other kinds of images or religious tracts, for example, or a census or instructions on how to participate in a particular organization, the capacity to read these things was severely limited. And the expansion of public education, such that the notion is that every citizen of every country should have the capacity to read and write, and therefore to communicate beyond their own presence. Because once you liberate the public from being analphabetic or being illiterate, you give them the capacity to tell stories not just in an oral way, as we're doing now, but in a way that involves recording, as we're also doing now, and hence involves retelling. So you take away the requirement that storytelling and story reception be physically present in the same space and time, and you make possible a broader access to telling stories, to committing to ideologies, to trying to make compelling arguments than was the case before.
I'd like to say that although we do suffer from a lot of hands-on, and I wish UCR could be known for filmmaking or known for being a hands-on filmmaking school, I do commend its analytical side, and I'm actually very grateful that I got to take that. And because, you know, I've learned that the filmmaking side is very basic, and almost anybody can go anywhere to learn how to make a movie. It's, you know, it's just the nuts and bolts to it. But to actually understand what a film stands for and what a film means, and, you know, I think that those things transcend farther after the movie is completed, and I think that they're more important to the substance of the movie and to filmmaking and to life and culture as we know it. So I am very happy of the education I received here. I wouldn't trade it for anything else in the world.
We don't even know really what media theory is. So it's what's the point in focusing on that? You can't ask one media and cultural studies major any year, what media theory, what have we learned from media theory? What is that?